Welcome to video lesson 12.5 on scatter plots and lines of fit. So in today's lesson, you're going to construct scatter plots, draw the line of fit, and then analyze that equation. Now a scatter plot is just a graph that shows the relationship between two data sets. The two sets of data are graphed as ordered pairs in a coordinate plane. Okay. And scatter plots are useful because they can show relationships that exist between two different data sets. Okay. Now, a positive relationship is shown in a scatter plot when generally all of your points are looking like they're increasing. So when generally it looks like they're all sort of going in that upward direction, starting low, going up to the right, that would be a positive relationship. If you think of the slopes of lines, this would show a positive slope. Okay? And as x increases, so is y. All right. Now, negative relationship is similar to a negative slope, where then the line is like going down. Okay. Or as x increases, y is decreasing. All right. Now, when there's no relationship, you can see that there are points literally scattered all over. Okay. And then the points don't show any type of pattern at all. Okay. Now, if there's a couple points that might be somewhere off to the side, that's okay. Those would be known as outliers, and we would still consider the relationship positive or negative if generally pretty much all of the points are in that general pattern. All right. Now, example 1, it says a scatter plot shows the amounts of fat in grams and the number of calories in 12 restaurant sandwiches. And that question A is asking us how many calories are in the sandwich that contains 17 grams of fat. So we look at where 17 is about, okay, draw it up until we have a dot, and that's at, match it up to 400 calories. So about 400 calories are in the sandwich that has 17 grams of fat. Now it asks how many grams of fat are in the sandwich that contains 600 calories. So now we're going to go the calories line, 600, make that one until we reach a point, and go all the way down, and that's 30 grams of fat. Okay. Now question C asks, what tends to happen to the number of calories as the number of grams of fat increases? Okay. So generally speaking, as the number of grams of fat increase, so as x increases, what's happening in this scatter plot? Y is also increasing. So what happens to the number of calories? Okay, they are also increasing. And we can just write it like that. Okay. Since it's going up from left to right, it's a positive relationship, which means as x increases, so does y. So as the number of grams of fat increases, so does the number of calories. All right. Now, example 2, we have to tell whether the data show a positive, negative, or no relationship. So television size and price. What's happening here? Well, generally speaking, it's sort of going in this general pattern, okay, up from left to right. Okay, so we would call this a positive relationship, okay? And if it asks you to explain, you would just say, as x increases, so does y. Or in this case, to be specific, as the television size increases, so does the price. Okay. Now we're looking at age and number of pets owned. Okay. Now this scatter plot really seems to be points literally scattered all over. We can't make out a general pattern here. So since there's no pattern, this would be considered no relationship. We wouldn't be able to use this scatter plot to really estimate anything else. Okay? Now, when a scatter plot shows either a positive or a negative relationship, then we would want to find a line of fit. And that is drawn on the scatter plot that's close to most of the data points, and it helps us to estimate other data that could be on the graph. Okay? Now, when you're drawing your line of fit, you want to remember two things. Okay? You want your line of fit to go through at least two of the points on the scatter plot. Okay? And as your line goes through two of the points on the scatter plot, there should be an equal amount of points above the line and below the line. All right, and we'll do an example of drawing a scatter plot and writing in your line of fit. Okay, so this example shows, the table shows the weekly sales of DVDs and the number of weeks since its release. Okay, and we're going to make a scatter plot of this data, and then we're going to draw a line of fit. Okay, what we first need to do then, okay, is label our table, or our graph, excuse me. So DVD sales, we have weeks for the X's. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we have the sales in millions. In millions of dollars. Okay? And it looks like the lowest is 5 and the highest is 19, so we'll just go up by 2's. Very good. Now we're making the scatter plot. So we're just simply plotting the points in a coordinate plane. Okay. So 1, 19, 2, 15, 3, 13, 4, 11, 5, 10, 6, 8, 7, 7, and 8, 5. Now that's our scatter plot. Now we want to draw a line of fit. So we want to draw a line that's going to go through at least two of these points where we're going to have about an equal amount of points that are still left above and below the line. Okay, so we're trying to get it to have as many points, as close to as many as we want. So we may use the points 5, 10, and 6, 8. Okay, because if we use those 2 points, okay, it's going to go a little bit behind there. Okay, so it'll look something like this, where I'm going to go through these 2 points. Okay, I'm kind of touching these, so they're sort of on it, but a little bit below, and then there's 3 that are a little bit above. Okay, so I went through the points 5, 10, and 6, 8. Okay, now I need to write an equation for that line. Now remember, okay, we need to remember the point slope form of a line. Okay. And remember that was y minus the y coordinate equals the slope times x minus the x coordinate. And in order to use this, we're going to have to know what the slope is. So slope of a line, okay, is the difference of the y's, again, over the difference of the x's. And this is slope. All right. So what we first need to do is figure out the slope using the 2 points that my line went through. So 8 minus 10 over 6 minus 5 is negative 2 over 1. So the slope is negative 2. Now I'm going to use that slope, okay, and just one of these points, so I'm just going to pick the point 5, 10, okay. So I have y minus my y coordinate was 10 equals my slope of negative 2, and then x minus that x coordinate, which was 5. Okay. Now I'm just solving this to get it into slope-intercept form. -2 times -5 is 10. Add 10. Okay, and I get y equals -2x plus 20. So an equation for that line of fit is y equals -2x plus 20. All right. Now it asks me to interpret that slope. So what does that slope of -2 mean? Well, okay, in this case, okay, it means that the sales are decreasing by about $2 million, because remember each one of these y's is in millions of dollars, each week, okay, because x is the number of weeks. So to interpret that, anytime you see interpret, that means you're going to write a sentence, okay, or at the least bit a phrase. All right, so the sales are decreasing by $2 million I have the dollar sign already, so $2 million each week. All right. And then we have a part B. And that's asking us to predict the sales in week 9. So we can simply use our equation that we just wrote in part B, okay, and substitute in 9 for x, because that stands for a week. So y equals -2 times 9 plus 20. Well, -2 times 9 is -18 plus 20 equals 2. And remember, that's in millions of dollars. Okay, so the sales in week 9 should be about $2 million. Okay. And if we looked at our line, generally speaking, that's about where it would go through. Okay, a little more than 2 kind of looks like about 2 3/4, but remember my line is not drawn very straight. Okay. Please write down any questions that you have. Okay, be sure to ask them during class the next day, and I'll be sure to go over the answers then for you. Okay, so here are the practice problems. It's a little easier to see here. You're going to make a scatter plot of number 1 and then just say whether it's positive, negative, or no relationship. And number 2, you're going to make another scatter plot with this information, draw on a line of fit, write your equation, interpret the slope, and predict using your equation how many people will attend in year 10. All right. Have a great night. Thank you for watching.